Welcome to a 10.1.10.1 review. Today we're looking at Fields of Mistria, early release version 0.11.6, and how I felt after playing the game for 10 minutes, 1 hour, 10 hours, and 1 year in-game. As a person who does not have a lot of time to play games, I think that first impressions are really important, and the first 10 minutes and hour of a game usually should give you a basic rundown of what the game has to offer. That being said, I also know that farming, life simulation, and cozy games can have slow starts, lengthy tutorials, or take some time to really shine, which is why I think reviewing the game at 10 hours and a year in game is also important, because how I feel at the 1 hour mark might be completely different at 10 hours, and that can change again after a year in game. I won't be rating Fields of Mistria on a scale, but we'll definitely talk about what I like and things I wished it did differently. Of course, since it is early access, a lot may change once it hits full release or when it gets big patches, so keep that in mind if you're watching from way in the future. With that out of the way, let's get into the review. Fields of Mistria is an indie farming simulation RPG game developed and published by NPC Studio. As of this review, it retails for $13.99. In Fields of Mistria, you can level up your farming, fishing, crafting, and other skills, customize your character and farms, have relationships with the villagers, and romantic relationships with the bachelor and bachelorettes, raise and breed animals for unique and rare colors, and battle monsters as you descend into the mines to gain new powers and learn more about the story. Speaking of the story, you relocate to Mistria after being promised a free homestead as long as you help revitalize the town after it suffered from a large earthquake. During your time in Mistria, you'll also awaken a dragon with amnesia and learn more about a ghostly dragon priestess who calls you to descend deeper into the mines. As this version of the game is still in early access, the story is currently incomplete and you can only progress so far. My first impressions of the game came from the demo since I couldn't wait to play. I played the demo for about an hour and it spanned 3 days in game. The demo does unlock 2 spells, access to the mines, and a bag upgrade earlier than what you get in the early access. And it's worth mentioning since I started the early access with a general familiarity with the controls, which may have influenced the amount of time that I spent figuring it out. After my first 10 minutes, I was already in love with the customization options available. After customizing my character, I was introduced to some of the villagers who helped me get settled into my little farmhouse. I must say, the starting farmhouse is so cozy and cute. Usually, whenever you inherit or buy a farm in other games, your lodgings are pretty dilapidated until you upgrade it, but in Fields of Mistria, you get a glimpse of how run down it is before it fixes up. Already, I was loving the pixel art style and the character portraits. Everyone that I met so far looked lovely and charming based on the short interactions that I was able to have. After an hour, I was introduced to the museum and town renown system, which is basically a leveling system for the town's ranking. Whenever the town goes up a level, then you get rewards in the form of money, unlockable cosmetics, furniture, or stamina increase. I was also introduced to the essence system, where I can spend points to unlock skills. Essence is collected whenever I do things such as water my plants or mine rocks. In the same way, whenever I do an action, it also goes towards leveling up that skill. The skills in the game include farming, fishing, archaeology, cooking, mining, ranching, woodcrafting, blacksmithing, and combat. For example, if I spend more time planting seeds, watering, and harvesting my crops, then my farming skill will increase and I will naturally get essence from doing those tasks. Skills are super helpful in the game and help make the particular domain easier. For example, if my farming was a high enough tier level, then I can unlock a skill that makes seeds have a chance of dropping whenever I water the plants. If my blacksmithing is high enough, then I can unlock a skill that allows me to make copper ingots with less copper ores. I also started farming, and just like most farming games, the mechanics are standard. You plant seeds, water crops, and harvest them when they're grown. There really isn't too much to talk about regarding the process in this game. At this point, I like the variety of different seeds that I had access to right away. The main pain point that I had during my hour was my very limited inventory slots. In the beginning, you only get 10 slots, and for me, half of those slots were taken by my tools. There are a ton of foraging items and drops, so I had to run back and forth from my chest and the museum often, or just choose to throw away lesser value items to make space for newer ones. After 10 hours, I made it to the second week of summer. I was making decent money from farming and had a few chickens and cows as well. I started developing friendships with the villagers and got some of them to blue hearts and even a green heart. It's really hard not to fall in love with the characters at this point because they have such amazing personalities and the game gives them lots of life. I really enjoy Friday nights at the inn where all of the villagers gather and spend time with each other, and the Saturday market as well. They have a lot of different dialogues, and I don't think that I've encountered too much of the same ones to make me bored of talking to people. Everyone is unique in their own way, and you'll get to know their likes and quirks pretty easily through all of the various interactions. I like how events come in the form of letters telling you where to go without a specific time limit, so you can activate them whenever you want versus other games I've played where you have to be in the right place at the right time. I also really like that other villagers commented on what happened in events as well. For example, I had a Blue Heart event with Celine where we found a rare seed and she was going to plant it. A few days after that, her mother Nora commented to me that Celine told her about the seed adventure. This caught me off guard because I played a lot of games where the romance events happen without other characters acknowledging it, unless it was a big thing such as an engagement or a marriage. So I really resonated with this interaction, which seems really small in the grand scheme of things, but adds to how alive the town felt. I was also pleasantly surprised when everyone's wardrobe changed to more casual summer clothing after spring was over. My favorite thing in cozy games are the relationships that I build with the characters, and Fields of Mistria does such a great job of making me feel invested in these characters. In addition to building deeper relationships, I also went deeper into the mines after unlocking around the 3 hour mark. I was able to go down quite a number of floors, and this unlocked more of the story and better ores for me to upgrade my tools with. The mines became a very integral part of the game. In the mine, you go through floors where you try to find the ladder to go deeper down. This could be done by breaking rocks or defeating enemies or even slashing barrels. Every 5 levels, there is a checkpoint that allows you to return to that level at any time. If you run out of stamina before getting to a floor with a checkpoint, you have to redo the other floors the next time. From what I've seen of the mines so far, I appreciate that the deeper you go down, it changes how it looks so you're not looking at the same gray and brown mineshaft area the entire way down. After 20 floors, my mineshaft took on a more underwater look with matching enemies, foraging items, and different ores. This really helped make the mines feel less grindy and gave me a sense of excitement since there were new things to explore. The mine combat is not the most cozy part of the game, however, I really appreciated the difference in enemies that I was encountering. In the beginning levels, there were slimes that jumped toward me, mushrooms that required me to turn my back and attack when they got closer, and sentient rocks that shot projectiles I had to deflect. In other areas, there were other enemies with their own unique attack patterns and ways to be defeated. Going deeper into the mines also unlocked magic spells that I could cast. The first one that I unlocked replenished my stamina, which is super helpful to have since I can do more in a day with it. I also unlocked the ability to summon rain and grow 3x3 area of crops to maturity. These magic spells cost mana to perform, and mana is replenished by using a potion you can get as a reward for various tasks, or slowly over a few days, so you can't really spam the magic spell every day. After 28.2 hours, I finally made it through the winter into the second year. At this time, I completed everything that I could do in the game. On the 20th day of summer, I made it to the 60th floor of the mines and got to the end that was available for the early access version. I also finished off the available town renovation projects by the 24th day of autumn. Most of the villagers are at 4 hearts and capped out. I've seen their events. Based on what I was able to experience after 1 year in game, here are some of the things I liked. Number 1. The relationships and dialogue for the villagers in this game is well done and really makes you feel like you're part of the town. I've already talked about how other villagers will comment on what happened in events and how Friday night gives the villagers more time for their personalities to shine. After a year in game, this is still true. Every time someone mentions something that I donated to the museum or a town upgrade that I did, I felt as though the town was alive. Every Friday night has been different, and each season had their own mini stories for different and changing groups of villagers. A lot of times in games, there are villagers that I'm not really a fan of and may neglect to talk to, but having these big gatherings and even small dialogue have really endeared me to each individual villager in Mistria, since I felt as though I spent all year with them. Number 2. I like that the game has many different skills to unlock, and skills make the game progressively easier. During my playthrough, I was able to make tools that would have a chance to drop stamina orbs so I can recover stamina while using them. I was also able to cook delicious dishes for a chance to get universally liked dishes that I can give to anyone, and they were sure to like it. I was even able to craft and forge more items without expending as many materials or time. All of these little additions made me feel pretty powerful at the end of the year, and I'm wondering whether more skills will be added in the future. Number 3. Another thing I like is the variety of animals and having the ability to breed your animals to get new colors. I can see this not being a thing for everyone, since the colors are pretty fantastical, such as having a blue cow or a purple duck. However, if you want a specific color for your animals, you can definitely get it. I spent the entire winter breeding animals to try and get different colors, and I thought it was pretty fun to do, since there are so many different types of animals. You can have cows, sheep, alpacas, horses, capybaras, chickens, ducks, and rabbits. Number 4. I like the nostalgic graphics, which remind me of old farming games, but also with the crisp and polish of newer games. Personally, I think everything in Mistria looks beautiful, though I know that not everyone likes the pixel art style. I also like the portraits of the villagers that pop up whenever there is dialogue. Each villager has such a unique personality that is reflected in their design, and this spans across the different seasons as they change clothes. Again, I can see that a lot of love was put into this area since there are so many reactions that have to be redone 4 times to match what the villagers are wearing. I'm really appreciative of the hard work though because this game looks so good to me. Number 5. I also really like the ability to change what you look like from the menu at any time that you want. This ease of access really encouraged me to change my outfits for occasions and seasons, so I wasn't just wearing the same thing over and over again. I really like that you can have fun hats and bows and whatnot to your animals as well. It's just really silly and cute. Number 6. Lastly, I like the ability to decorate your farm and house interior. Right now, there are a few sets of furniture available and probably more, which I haven't found the crafting recipes for yet, and that is enough to create quite a cozy feeling. I love the ability to decorate in most games, and this is no exception. Here are some things that I wish I knew sooner. Number 1. One of the things that I wish I knew sooner was that materials are not very hard to come across since all of the trees grow back in town and the surrounding areas every day. Usually in these types of games, I don't attempt to cut down the trees that are outside of my farm, but after 2 whole seasons of doing so, the villagers have not lodged a complaint to me yet. Number 2. Another thing I wish I knew sooner was that I could just buy a crafting station from the carpenter's store, so I don't have to book it into town or the carpenter's store to craft furniture and other items. I found that having it directly on my farm was very useful for when I wanted to redecorate. Number 3. Yet another thing I wish I knew is that animals will eat the grass that's growing on my farm without having to cut it down. I'm used to fencing in my animals in various farming games, so I carried that habit over to this game. However, the animals will find their way back to their respective barns and coops if you ring the bell, and you do not have to feed them if there's plenty of grass on your farm. Number 4. Lastly, Balor's Wagon sells a rotating selection of items, which could be donated to the museum. If you're like me and totally did not think to donate your crops in the springtime because you were too busy trying to make money, then visit Balor's Wagon. And here are some things I wish were different. Number 1. One of the things I wish was different is the ability to create multiple items without having to click on the +1 button multiple times. While I was writing this review and editing it, Fields of Mistria actually had a new patch, so now it is on version 0.11.6, and you have the ability to hold down the plus and the minus button, which really solves this problem for me. Number 2. Another thing I wish was different is that the Saturday market had more items that rotated in and out of selection. Even if they kept the same items, but only made them available during certain seasons, I think that would have been better. I was so excited for the Saturday market to see what the vendors were selling, but after a season or so of seeing the same thing, I realized that in the current state of the game, this was the selection I was going to get. I did check the market for the entire year, but there was really nothing that changed, and I'm sure that it will be different in a later version of the game, but at this point, I'm just a little disappointed about it because I was so excited to have a Saturday market to go to. Number 3. Of course, since this is early access, I've encountered 2 crashes during my playthrough. I'm hopeful that the full release will be more stable since I hated having to restart my day. And naturally, I wish that there were more things to do and for the ability to increase my relationships without waiting for future updates because I love the characters and I just want to continue playing the game. However, I did buy the game in early access knowing these limitations, so I cannot complain about what is available right now. If the current limitations of the game is a deal breaker for you, then I would suggest holding off on getting it until it is fully released or until more major updates happen. I really enjoyed my first year with Fields of Mistria, and I will definitely keep on playing as major updates roll out. The next update is expected to come in the fourth quarter of 2024 with lots of fun things, such as additional home upgrades, a new festival, and increasing the villager heart cap from 4 to 6. I'm looking forward to seeing where the story goes and exploring more different cave biomes. I would say that this game is really classic in its formula for a farming game. However, it enhances the formula enough where it doesn't feel like just another farming game that I play and forget. So far, it has hit the level of coziness that I want, and it also keeps me actively on my toes with the mines. Again, I think that it probably will be stressful to some people who do not like combat or like having to fight enemies. And in this game, the mine is pretty required content to continue the story and get magic spells. However, if you're fine with that and the fact that it's still in early access, then I think that the game in its current state is pretty enjoyable and it has enough content to last you a decent amount of time while you wait for more content to come out. Well, there you have it. If you think this game is for you, I hope you give it a try. Until next time, I have been Nessa, and this has been a 10-1-10-1.